I'd like to start just asking what inspired you to make this game from the beginning.
Well, I'll speak for game design, but really it's always trying to do something a little bit different. We didn't necessarily start out as a survival game or as a post-apocalyptic game. I know it's, you'd look at it and think that was naturally, what we're trying to do, but it was really about the idea of you being a leader of a team. That was the thing that really excited us.
That's the core.
Yeah, that's very, very much the core. That was going back to the very first prototype. And we were interested in you not controlling the team, but actually having a team that were automated. So they'll eat for themselves, sleep when they're tired, and all these they have different emotions associated with all their stats, etc. And we thought it'd be interesting to put you in the role of like a true leader, where you can't just tell someone when they need to sleep and eat. You're making those big overarching decisions and then seeing the consequences play out. So that was where it started, and then of course you need to start thinking about the world that it takes place in. Start thinking, well, we need to leave the base and explore. So it starts to kind of gradually grow, and then you think, well, where are we going to set this? And obviously Mark, being the artist, is sort of responsible for bringing that idea to life visually. But game design wise, it was always, how can we do something different with the survival genre and like the team aspect, of looking after this automated team.
Yeah. I think generally speaking, the way it all starts is still have a nucleus of an idea that is based around a gameplay mechanic or a premise, and then I'll just respond to that. In the instance of this, I think the first thing we did was a picture of Jacob. That's actually the silhouette from the first picture I drew of him, and that was the first and last design of him. But that's the benefit of a small team. We can do that, but at the same time we haven't got the luxury of loads of pre-production time and so on. But it started out as a 2D game, so I was inspired by the idea of keeping retaining a 2D element, like a 2D style, with very simple colours, very simple shapes, things that are easily identifiable at a smaller size on the screen.
Not hugely detailed textures either.
No. And I like the idea of keeping that feel of hand painting in the textures as well. Generally speaking, I don't use photography or anything, overlays and stuff like that. It's all kind of hand painted, and I think that kind of adds to it. It's a bit of an old school approach, but it sort of works for me. But then, the game in scope, it seemed a little crazy that we could keep going on doing this in a 2D, so we then migrated to the idea of doing it in 3D. So that initial style bled into what became the 3D style that you see now. But it all stems from, what we were inspired by as kids. We don't set out to, be inspired by a lot of current stuff, because it makes you very comparable, I think. So we're very inspired by old B movies like John Carpenter movies, Steven Spielberg, musical artists of the 80s sort of time as well. So Harold Faltermeyer, Vince DiCola, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think all that's just ingrained in you. So when you react to that, and it just kind of comes out of you naturally, then this is kind of what you get, because I think I'd find it very hard work if I was trying to do something in someone else's style, So yeah, that's it.
That's good. I like it. So, like 80s singers have inspired you?
Not 80s singers so much. No, it's more the
soundtracks.
The soundtracks.
Yeah, Vangelis as well. And John Carpenter.
Yeah.
He did a lot of his own music, and Mitch Murder, who does our soundtrack.
That's my next question.
Obviously very popular here in Sweden, and he's supremely talented, and he just encapsulates that era effortlessly. He doesn't even try. There's just something about what he does. And he's just being himself. And I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, and we've been looking for an excuse to work together ever since. And this was kind of the first time where I didn't want to just get him involved for the sake of it,
Yeah.
And we showed him what we were working on, and he really liked the look of it. And I think he was excited as much to work with us as we were with him, And then we just gave him footage, artwork, and we just let him get on with it. We didn't dictate or anything, and we just let him respond, be his own voice, because that's why you go to someone, right? You want their voice in your game, you know. So he was like the distant sixth member of the game, but the music is as big a character as, you know, the Void or any of the characters in the game, you know. But it was meant to be a very prominent voice, you know. We wanted this game to make you feel a certain way, you know. It's like that tangible atmosphere and an experience that makes you feel a certain way when you play it. And then 2 years time, when you look back, or when you first played Impact Winter, and you listen to the soundtrack, it will just evoke an emotional response, you know. And that's how I used to feel as a kid, you know, watching movies and so forth. So hopefully we've done that.
Yeah, but because Johan Bengtsson, he is making like most synthwave music. I didn't get to hear a lot to the music because I had to hear the guy explaining much to me. But how much of it is in the game, really, the music that he creates? Can it be recognized with the other tracks he have done, or is it something special for the game that he's made?
No, he's done the entire soundtrack.
Completely,
all of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
And the thing that's been good for him as well is that it's been a different experience for him because he's been so used to creating his type of music, you know, these kind of 3-4 minute sort of, you know, songs.
And all is like directed at the 80s, like in the neon era synth. And
I mean, as much as like we didn't tell him exactly what we wanted, we were also very forthcoming in like giving him little bits of feedback and, you know, giving him a list of locations in the game so that he wouldn't just go and create a bunch of music and then we just had you know, the songs and the soundtrack is, we have a theme that runs throughout the day in the game, and then when it turns to night, it bleeds into this new track.
Okay,
so
I have a catch that.
We have like a night and day theme, and obviously they have a different feel. So the music has been sort of carefully crafted to work with the different situations and environments that you find yourself in. We obviously have the church theme, which is more like of a comforting.
I heard that one.
So it's generally plays a really big part. It's all completely unique. So
I need to listen more to the game when I get the chance. So
Yeah,
when I get into it. Yeah,
it's great in its own right. It really is.
Yeah,
really I can imagine because I like his music anyway. From the start. So
you'll love it.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's good.
You will love it.
Yeah. When you finish the game and you start over, how different will it be from the first time you played it? Is it like diversive? You can do a lot of different things can go wrong.
Definitely,
compared to the first time and such. How will it change the gameplay?
Well, the design is it's like an emergent open plan design, so we have things like strangers wandering the void, and they won't always be wandering in the same places, they won't always want the same things. The items that you find in the searchables are randomly generated. We have control over them to a certain extent, so you don't find odd items in odd places, but there'll be different amounts of items in different places in every searchable. So you couldn't play the game and tell me where all the food is, or, you know, it's different each time you play. And obviously the team have their own stats and their own behaviour and moods. So, you know, for example, characters with low morale will argue with each other, and then you as the leader of the team can intervene in those arguments and choose which side of the argument you agree or disagree with.
Wow.
So there's
that's far out of the game.
Yeah. So there's a lot. And then, of course, the story paths. You know, we should probably talk a little bit about the team members because they are a huge part of the game in that they have their own distinct skills.
Yeah.
So, like Maggie is responsible for upgrading the church, which is making your team self-sufficient. Blaine is in charge of survival equipment, so campsites and traps for hunting. Then you have Wendy, who's in charge of taking the ingredients and using them to create interesting recipes and medical supplies. And then Christoph is in charge of upgrading Acolyte, your robot companion. So each of those members has been designed to kind of be needed. They've all got their own point of being there, which then means that naturally you want to keep them all alive and, you know, keep them all happy.
Yeah, so when we were talking outside, I was playing and he said you can lose one of the team members as you go, but it's still possible to finish the game without one of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it is possible. I mean, it's not...
It will be difficult, he said.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So it's definitely designed to promote you to be like a game about leadership. It's a game about trying to keep the team alive. Yeah. But at the same time, we didn't want to create a game where if a character dies, it's like impossible. But generally, the difficulty ramps up, so you've got more chance of those major issues happening like later on in the game, which is where the tough choices come in because you might only have like 6 hours left to survive. A character needs something urgently, but you know you might have other priorities. So that's where the kind of emergent gameplay comes in that you'll find yourself in different situations just based on what things happening at different times and the character stats. So
yeah, that's real good.
Cool.
And for the people playing the game, when you've been making the game, what kind of range of age have you been expecting people to
we're
be enjoying this game?
We're PEGI 16, so I mean, generally speaking, I mean, it's not too dark. So there's a lot of very sort of dark, serious, sort of almost simulation type survival games where they can be really bleak and they can be really serious, and there's a lot of games out there that do that really well. But I think with Impact Winter, we've tried to be very much a traditional video game, give it that feel, which is what Mark's talked about, the art style. It's it's kind of cartoony, doesn't take itself too seriously, even because of the subject matter. So there's not a lot of gore in the game, and there's not a huge amount of violence in the game. That's not the type of game we're making. So generally, we're looking at it being a game that's for fans of the survival genre, but also fans of adventure role-playing games as well, with our kind of our XP system or rescue point system. So I would say we're trying to appeal to survival game fans that are perhaps our audience is perhaps a little broader than what it would be on some other survival games.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'd just like to finish off with because we talked a little about music. The biggest challenge you had for like from day one when you started this up until now, with making this game, what's been the...
You go for that one.
Tear the most hairs out of your head.
The biggest challenge.
That's a good question. I think we're a really small team, so I'd say that's quite a challenge at times, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is that we allowed the idea to become what it needed to be, and what it needed to be was a lot larger than we first intended, but it didn't stop us keep going with it. And we are a small team, and with that comes
only so many hands.
Only so many hands. So you end up putting in a hell of a lot of hours to get it done, but you almost think to yourself, well, if we kind of shortchange the idea, it's almost cheating it, so you either do it or you don't.
But that's been the challenges, like the scope and the ambition of the game, the fact that it is open planned, etc. That comes with a certain amount of challenges and really the team size. But then the team size has afforded us a lot of flexibility as well when it comes to the game design, because we're such a small team. We can implement features really quickly without having to move up through various different departments and move in different ways. So it also benefits you a lot as well.
I mean, it was big when it started, but a lot's been added to it through production as well. So it's even bigger than we first catered for, but it's all what we think is for the greater good of the experience, because if something is lacking or we think something can make it stronger, then it's a no-brainer. You have to put it in for the good of the game, so sometimes that can be the biggest challenge, I think, but we've always enjoyed the intimacy of a small team and the freedom of creativity that comes with it. So
that's how you will keep going for next games and so, and you're comfortable working like
we'll become rock stars after this. We'll hire 100 people, a big giant office somewhere, big tower block. We'll go on tour. I think we'd always stay, perhaps get a little bit bigger, but I think really
we've never had aspirations to be some big company. I mean, maybe 10 people. I'd probably cap it about there, because and the thing is, we're naturally hands-on as well. We're not managers. So the more people you've got, the more people there is to manage, right? But at the same time, you want to remain hands-on, and all the time you've got something to give creatively, you don't really want to kind of give that up. So there's a balance to be struck there, and I think if you get too big, then it would go against the grain a little bit. So we kind of like the small thing. You've got a bigger voice, a more individual voice anyway.
So I just as I come up with things, I'd have to ask, because it's still some time until the game is launched, can we expect some changes, something added?
Not really at this stage. We're just about to approach beta, so it's now at the stage where it's about fine tuning and tweaking. And with a game like this, there's a lot of stats, a lot of things to balance. So there's going to be bugs, there's going to be things that, that's one of the challenges we had at the show, is that we have an hour to show off a survival game. So it's very hard in the space of an hour to kind of get across what the game is in its entirety. So it's a real challenge, but obviously there's a lot of different components that are going to need adjusting and tweaking, but content-wise, we've been set up for some time now on what the game actually entails. It's now just a case of making sure that it's well balanced and fine-tuned. Yeah. But there's always ideas, there's always things floating around in the back of your mind, just always creatively in a team. So I'm sure there's things somewhere that at some point in time, might get discussed, not necessarily for this project, but maybe things go forward.
Yeah, we're already working on the next one.
Already started something. More to come.
Discussions have begun already.
They never stop really.